All right. Sorry, I'm a few minutes delayed here, but we're ready to get started today. I was doing a little extra texting and trying to see if I couldn't get a third party to join us tonight. Fingers crossed, maybe we'll have an extra guest. But I do want to welcome tonight's guest. I've only met Andrew one time, and it was back in like 2009 at a Wizard Con. But I knew back then that he was a big uh, uh, Micronauts collector, ROM, that sort of thing, but I didn't really get to know a lot about his collection. He's been on CAF since about 2007 and easily has the largest collection of Micronauts artwork, ROM artwork. He's a huge Dr. Doom fan, and we're going to learn what drives him to be a collector of 80s nostalgia. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him into the stream. And how are you doing this morning or this morning? Man, I'm telling you, I have had a long day. I'm like Berkey. I'm waking up at, midday, and it's still I'm still having my first cup of coffee.
Hey,
Welcome
Bill,
to the show.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Good. No, it's my pleasure, man. When we were formulating a list of people that we wanted to talk to, whether it was on the Comic Art Live chat that we normally do Tuesday nights, which of course, and just so everybody knows, this is our Tuesday night normal, but it's our night off. We do 2 nights on, one night off every week. So it's kind of
an issue, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is a one shot. So,
okay.
but yeah, you were on my short list when we were trying to come up with a list of who we wanted to talk to. And, we had Scott Dunbier on a few weeks ago, and I knew with the Micronauts book coming out, I thought, this is the time to have Andrew on because it just ties in really well. And I think originally the book was due to arrive in stores late last week, but it's been pushed back, I think.
Pushed back to what we're told the first week of November now, hopefully. The story I've told is that the books are in the United States, just held up in customs. So those gears have to grind, and when they're done, then they'll be in everybody's hands.
Yeah. No, I've had the same thing happen. I publish a book once a year, and it seems like every year it's either held up, in the other country, or it's held up in customs. And no matter what date we think it's going to be delivered, I should usually add 4 to 6 weeks to that because it's especially now. I think since COVID started, I think everything is much worse when things get into customs. It just, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So back to the 80s, how did you get started collecting original art, and why that period in time is, why is that your focus?
How I started, that's a good story. I've got materials here to show my work. I was originally when it comes to art, I was originally a collector of sketch cards. I started out with, in 1998 with Skybox's Marvel Creators Collection, 1998. And their big deal was, for every box of cards that you would buy, one of those packs in there would have an original sketch. And I still have my very first one right here. Hold on. There it is, Dr. Doom.
Wow, lucky you.
Well, I didn't pull it out of a pack. I actually bought that one on eBay just because I like the look of it.
Sure.
But at the time, I had not been exposed at all to the actual full-sized art. So I had no idea what the blue lines and stuff like that along the borders here were for. I just I looked at the art and I didn't know what the formatting was all about. And in the process of collecting, I had commissioned an artist in New York his name is Anthony Castrillo, who some people recognize that name. And he was taking his time getting a piece back to me that I had commissioned. And he finally emailed me, says, it's finally done. It's on its way. Expect it to be a little bit bigger than you were expecting. Okay. And I waited a couple of days, and then this big package arrived, yay by yay. And I'm like, well, I had been expecting something about this size. So I opened it up, and my commission comes out, which is fine. But in addition to it, Anthony had done a full page pencil, ink, and colored pencil piece of Dr. Doom unofficial Marvel paper, which is right here.
Oh, wow.
So I was kind of like, oh, so that's what the blue stuff is all about on the side there. It's actually make kind of a pastiche of the real thing. And once I realized what the real thing was, I was just kind of like cards, and I kind of was done and segued over to original art. And then it just took a little bit of exploring on eBay and stuff like that to actually get inroads and into seeing how the industry or the hobby worked. And back then it would have been 1998, around 2000. It was still really dependent on eBay much more than it is now, and was able to start collecting the original stuff. And I immediately gravitated toward finding Micronauts stuff because that was my number one favorite comic from when I was a wee lad.
So that was the question that Scott Dunbeer asked me to ask you. Can I, your favorite comic? So it was obviously Micronauts. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, he's busting my chops a little bit, but that's all right. That's part of what he does for a living. So yeah, my favorite comic book. We can do the story of how I discovered Micronauts. That seems like an all right.
Well, I think that's the tie, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's driving you today, and
yes,
complete books and whatnot. So exactly. I mean, Micronauts was started by Mego, right? I mean, over 40 years ago. So
it was Mego. It was based on a toy line by Mego in the United States, which were copies of 3 different Japanese toy lines that they just kind of merged all together and spat out to an American audience. There's the little guys like so, your typical action figure size. They had the magnet guys, which is your Baron Karza, where the limbs would come off and they can make them into a centaur. And then they had a third line, which was the big Transformer bots. And vehicles and stuff like that. And those had all been made in Japan as 3 separate lines, and they just kind of split them together and kind of hoped that the American public would go for it. And Marvel went for it, but and there's still a very dedicated fan base for the toys. But personally, I never got the toys at all. I was in about 1981, 82, Empire Strikes Back had come out. And back then, there was no internet. There was no VCRs. If you were a Star Wars fan, the only thing to get your Star Wars fix was the Marvel comic. Archie Goodwin doing the Marvel comic mostly with Carmen Infantino and a little bit of Walt Simonson before he blew up. And I would just haunt my local Rexall drugstore for the spinner racks. I remember clearly there was every Friday is when the new comic books would arrive. Mm-hmm. And I was jonesing for the most recent Star Wars book, and it hadn't come in on time. It was a week late. And so I was looking for something else to pick up, and I grabbed something which looked like sort of Star Wars-y. It was Micronauts number 27. And it had 2 characters fighting on that, and one of them was in black armor, which looked close enough to Darth Vader to be, perhaps entertaining. So I took that home with me. And I had selected, of the entire Micronauts run, probably the most continuity heavy, issue to try and get myself introduced to. I mean, it's talked about SHIELD and ESP units and mine bridges and Enigma Force and World Mine and all this stuff that was just gibberish. I mean, it was that particular issue was a bad one to try and introduce yourself. But for some reason, it made enough of an impression that I gave it a chance for the next month, picked up issue number 28. And there was a little blurb in there that referenced an earlier issue, Micronauts number 11. And so I asked a buddy of mine on the swim team we were all going up to Duluth, Minnesota, for a state swim meet, and my buddy who was on the swim team brought Micronauts 11 along with him, so I could see, because I had been asking about it. Because it had come out, a year and a half earlier, so there's no easy way for a kid in a small town to be able to find a comic book. And he brought it along, got up to Duluth, and he handed over the comic, and I went to my room. And this is one of those things where every collector, I always say, will probably have 1 or 2 or 3 comics where they remember where they were when they read it the first time. And it just kind of is like etched into your heart forever. There's only a couple of them for me. Dark Knight is one of them, but the other one is Micronauts number 11, because I had read only 2 issues of the book when Pat Broderick, bless his heart, was on the book at that point. Pat was ahead of his time as far as detail is concerned, and the printing process and the coloring process and the newsprint at the time just let his art down terribly. His stuff just turned into mud when you look at it. And so that's all I had been exposed to as far as Micronauts. And I opened up the Micronauts number 11 and was introduced to Michael Golden stuff, and it was just a revelation. I mean, just like drinking in every page. With that issue and with the first 12 issues, Mantlo he really knew how to pace a book to not hurry anything. He was just hitting on all cylinders, and I just had to find everything else that was drawn by this guy. And eventually, over time, I tracked down the other 12 issues, and they are just as far as a comic book nerd thing, that they've been my guiding light, I guess. My favorite book, and Micronauts number 11 has been my all-time favorite single comic book since then.
Right, I don't blame you. And that period of Golden's work, I mean, was revolutionary to me. I mean, it was like seeing, Miller's Daredevil or whatnot. When you saw, Golden's style, I mean, even today, you can still see it, but the work done during that period, it was amazing. I mean, you had to buy anything that his art was on the cover of, just because it was so beautiful. And I know I miss those days. Those are, like you, I bought all my books. I'm 52, so I was buying books in the 70s and at the drugstore. And his work always, stood out amongst anything else that was out on, on the shelves. So it was always something you had to pick up. And Micronauts easily, were one of those books.
I've always been of the opinion, and there might be some that think that it's biased in this, but I think that a huge amount of there's no question that Golden influenced an entire generation of artists, which is outstanding when you consider how little stuff he really is responsible for putting out. He did the Micronauts. Before that, he did some stuff for DC with Batman. Did Micronauts for a year, and then he did his famous big 3 issues, which is Star Wars number 38, 38. That was a fill-in issue just before The Empire Strikes Back, and at the time, Star Wars fans hated it. Star Wars 38, Avengers Annual number 10, which is the introduction of Rogue, and Doctor Strange number 55, that big fight after Clea had left him in the big fight with Despair. Mm-hmm. Those 3 issues, in my mind, made the rest of his career, if you ask me. And they're just if there weren't those 3 issues and Micronauts too, but I still think those 3 issues, I don't think you inspire all the guys who do Image Comics all have owe a debt to their styles. Your Leafields, your Todd McFarlane, all of them, you can see echoes of Golden stuff in from then all the way to the present day, if you ask me. So
I agree.
For such a small amount of output, his influence has just echoed through comicdom, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, you're not biased, but I completely, I completely agree. I mean, those first couple issues of Marvel Fanfare were always like my favorite. I mean, just looking at the work from that, that book as well.
I only read that one within the last year. Surprisingly enough, I finally got a collected edition. Yeah, I'm more biased. They're pretty, but I didn't like the story that was being told. But oh well.
Well, it's tough to get Spidey into the Savage Land and that sort of thing. So they had to work something in there. But Golden was a good choice to draw that book too.
Oh yeah, very pretty.
So yeah. Well, listen, you sent me some scans. I thought it'd be fun to look at. Is that okay if we look at a few of those now and talk about some of the artwork in your collection?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Pull up this first one here.
I'm supposed to give a little commentary as we go, or what?
Well, I mean, I'd like to know. Well, for one, and somehow I've been in your gallery numerous times and overlooked the fact that you have this thing for Doctor Doom. You sent me this piece, and I was like, I got to go look and see, because I was like, does he have a thing? Is it Dazzler? And then no, it's Doctor Doom. So explain the whole thing with Doom, because clearly that was a sketch card that you picked up and the commission that you had gotten. So tell me about this piece.
Dr. Doom is my number 2 favorite villain after Baron Karza. So I guess I just had this thing for armored, chatty villains that like to talk a lot. And so what that says about me personally, I don't know. But I just I was exposed. First exposure to Dr. Doom was pretty much with Byrne's run on Fantastic Four, and that is really when some real depth was given to that character. And has never been the same ever since, and never equaled, if you ask me. He was a fantastic villain back then. And this was just, I was not a huge fan of Dazzler, because it was written kind of like a romance comic with superpowers, if you ask me. And so, but this one was just found off of eBay, and I just was determined to have it. So I've had this one for over 10 years. I think big bucks. I think it went for about $1,200, 10 years ago. That was big bucks then, I suppose, for a Dazzler page.
Sure. It's been in your gallery since 2009. And if anybody didn't know, it was Romita Jr. and Armando Gil.
Yep. And I just think it's funny that it makes you twitch just to look at it. I think that's great. So
yeah, no. I picked up the early Dazzler issues, but I remember this issue fondly. It was just because it was so out of place and everything. But when you sent me this, I was like, damn, I totally forgot about this splash. And so that's amazing. You actually picked this up on eBay, because good stuff like this doesn't come up on eBay anymore.
Nope, this would be a heritage thing now.
Oh, heck yeah. Let's see. So here's another one. Battlestar Galactica.
That's Pat Broderick. He did only 2 covers for Battlestar Galactica, and he did the interiors for this issue. It was a fill-in issue. This one is a very recent arrival, but it's one of my favorite, really distinctive covers for Battlestar, for the Marvel version, I should say. And it's tough to find Battlestar covers these days, because I did a little inventory after I picked this up, because Walt Simonson drew about half the book, and so half of the covers on this are Walt did, and are still in the Walt lockup, obviously. So it's pretty hard to find Marvel covers. In addition to that, the first 3 are buried deep in collections, sci-fi collections, and #1 notorious collectors who collect #1 issue covers, shall we say. So a lot of those covers are locked up. So I was quite grateful that this one fell into my lap.
Was this a dealer purchase or something that you picked up on at an auction?
No, a dealer found this for me and he was kind of like, I think I know who would like to have it take a look at this. So it's good to have friends in high places.
Oh yeah. I mean, as collectors, I think that's something that people aren't really aware of. But there's a lot of collectors who will take your want list and want to know what you want, and and the dealers will certainly do what they can to appropriate pieces, when they know it's something that you're really looking for. So
yeah, if you're willing to pay the premium.
oh
And
yeah.
I think they're providing a service, so I guess to a certain degree, I don't. There's premiums and there's premiums, so shall we say? But this one was expensive, but not outrageous.
Right. Well, you're definitely a collector that, I mean, when I go to your CAF gallery, there's finder fees noted and whatnot. So people know you're on you're on the lookout, and they certainly know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, they're not gonna, it's hard to forget that.
The hobby always talks about people that want your want list and that will promptly use it against you. And I'm just going to be the first one to say that has not happened to me yet. And I hope it doesn't. So I hope that those are just big overblown stories. So
yeah, I mean, I've heard different stories about that too. It's like sometimes and we've talked about that on a few different shows where people will say that they don't want you to know what books they're trying to complete or whatnot, because that'll just make people hold the pieces longer or ask twice as much for a piece than what they're worth. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's probably it's better to probably let them know, unless it's something really special that there could be some disadvantage to it. But at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing. I look for eclectic art too, and so there's a couple dealers that I know fall into that type of the art that I like, and I've always kind of said, here's 3 or 4 things if you ever find. I know it's rare, but if it comes up, please think of me.
Yep. It's very, very important to have a really good network in this hobby.
Now this is Grimjack cover.
Grimjack. This is one of my sideline collecting, but this is not a particularly highly sought after cover. But it's one of my favorites in my entire collection. And it's just because of my personality. I went to art school for a while, and I realized pretty quickly that I have one of those personalities that is drawn to symmetry in art. And so this is one of, you could put a line right straight down the middle of this cover, and it would, artistically speaking, it's very symmetrical, and it just speaks to me. It just sings. I just love this cover a lot. Doug Rice, and I forget who he may have inked this one too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. On your gallery description, it's only got Doug's name on it, but yeah, no, I agree. I never read Grimjack, but always appreciated it. I always thought that they had really stark colors on their covers and whatnot. I always enjoyed that.
Yeah, that is Grimjack in front, obviously, and the special guest star is another First Comics property, Dynamo Joe. And this was kind of a introduction of Dynamo Joe and his backstory to hopefully a bigger audience, since Grimjack was one of their bigger sellers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's a chance to pimp one of the things I'm looking for. All right. This is Rom's Space Knight, the final page, number 40 of the second annual, which is a book that I am trying to complete. I have approaching 2/3 of the book now. I think there are 15 more pages I need to find. I know where 3 of them are, so there are 12 left to locate. 3 of them are splashes. This is the end page, and most at the time I know I've done an inventory of Sal's work on Rom recently, and most of his splash pages are danger kind of splashes, kind of cliffhanger sort of energy. And this is one of the only ones which is a big old hero splash. And so I think that's rare. But of all the pages, if you were gonna try and put this particular book together, this would be the one to try and nail down first, because people would be fighting over this, and I had to trade a cover for this one.
Right. Well, you figure this is from Rom Annual 2, so it's got 40 pages. I mean, if you were going to complete a book, you've picked a hard one to complete, because if you already have around 23 pages, that's usually a full, complete story.
Right.
So you've got your work cut out for you on this one.
Yeah, well, 12 pages left to go, and then that is about the time when things start to get a little bit harder, because the casual owners are the ones that you've already eliminated. Now you're getting to the ones that basically don't want to tell you whether or not they have pages or two from from this particular book in their collection. So
right, and
I'm
this
working
is
hard to build up a lot of trade bait to be able to make some really, really outrageous offers to try and shake the tree a little bit. So stay tuned.
yeah. Well, good luck with that. I'm sure if you ever complete it, you'll have to shoot me an email, and I'll make a news write up about it, because I think that would be a momentous thing to do, to actually complete this whole story.
We'll see. I've already checked with Sal; he doesn't have them and any pages from this book, and I cleaned cleaned out the inkers of the book. That's how I started on this. I got almost halfway because of them. So
nice. See, now you're giving away one of your secrets. As far as go to the inkers and go to you've hit everybody. You've hit the penciler and the inkers when you're tracking art down.
Yeah.
Well, and here you have it.
There's Micronauts, the cover for Micronauts number 11. I have talked to people that say that this is the #1 favorite cover in the entire run. And yeah, I know. You look at it; it's got that symmetry thing going, which appeals to me. I think the most important cover for the run is Micronauts number 2, which we'll see a picture of a little bit later, because it's on the cover of the artist edition from IDW.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lawnmower cover, and I think that's easily the most important one of the whole line. But this one's pretty big. I've had artists compare this one to. They say that this one transcends comic books. That this one becomes more pop art, almost like a Frazetta or something like that. That's high praise, obviously, but I guess I can see where this one has a little bit more mojo than your typical cover, even for Michael Golden.
Oh, I mean, without question. I remember this one. I also bought it off the newsstand, and again, it was just Michael's art, and I still wasn't totally getting the whole Micronauts thing, but I did actually have several of the toys growing up, so that was kind of a cross appeal for me. I had the ones where you could actually, like you said, change the character out into the centaur and whatnot, and with the magnetic balls that allow you to snap them into place and change them. I thought that was cool. But you're right. I mean, and this is a book that you have the entire book for,
yes,
not just the cover.
A rare opportunity to have the entire book. The previous owner had acquired it shortly after its publication, and had kept it in his basement for 35 years. Bless his heart. And I managed to catch him contacted him at a moment when he had some family bills that he was needing to try and help family with, and so we came to an agreement. You'll probably hear lots of stories of people that when it comes to some of the big gets for the ones the bits of their collection where they're the most proud of or most excited, it is all in the timing that you manage to catch the previous owner at a moment of where you could speak to them, I guess, shall we say. So, and that is what this one was a lucky happenstance. He had all of the interiors, including all of the surprints, the color effects pages, and they even had a negative effect on one page where they did what they call a reverse stat, and the previous owner had the original artwork for that reverse stat as well. So I mean, it was hyper complete, and it actually turns out, not to draw out the story all that much, he contacted me later for some different deals, and he had found not only he had found for the color effect pages, he had actually found the original pencils, Michael's original pencils, stashed away. So not only Michael's inks and Michael's pencils, and just it was hyper complete right up, except the cover was missing. So I had my eye looking for that for years, and this one showed up a few years later, which is a whole nother story.
Very nice. So I didn't realize that, I'd read through your outline for getting the whole book, but I didn't know you actually got that much extra material, like all the color guides and everything too. That's pretty incredible.
I don't have the color guides. I have the color plates.
The plates. Oh, got it.
The color effects. So where you have, cosmic battle going on, and you have things that they did just in blue or just in yellow or red. Those were drawn on a separate page, and then they were manually added to the color plates later. So they call them surprints at the time, but we would call them a color overlay now. So that is all the artwork that I have. The color guides for this was printed twice. Once in as the standard comics, and it was printed a few years later as a special edition. And the color guides for the special edition exist in another collection, which has not been offered to me. So maybe someday, we'll see. As for the color guides for the original print, I have not heard a peep. So, but still, hyper complete, even so. Oh, I giggle every time I see this one. This may not be a splash page, but I think this is my favorite page in my collection. And a lot of other people, tap their finger on this one too, because there's just no better villain mustache twisting kind of villain soliloquy page in the entire Micronauts run. It's just, the Baron is just at his most verbose in this one, and it's just a hoot. And I just love the underlit dramatic first panel there. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, for me, this is probably my favorite piece in the pieces you sent me, without question. I mean, it's just, I look at work like this, and I went to art school too, so I look at art a little differently than just, and I see this and I think there's so many different ways that you can draw flame and smoke and everything. And it's like Golden, and even Kirby Crackle, and Golden found his own way to do all of those in such a unique way that, it's unmistakably him. I see Golden, the G from his signature and all those little puffs in the background. And it's just amazing how he, his work was so uniquely his and so stylized, during this period. Like the lawnmower image, like you said, is one of those images just etched in your memory. It's so much about the way it's drawn as well as about what's drawn in it. His style is just, breathtaking. And
yet you look at this and you can see that Arthur Adams was looking at this and taking notes, and as Adams went, Adams helped beget again a whole generation of artists. So
absolutely.
You're probably starting to note a theme here with Micronauts, is that my favorite pages have the Baron on them. So again, that is me gravitating toward my verbose bad guys. This is a Pat Broderick, Danny Bolinati splash page from Micronauts number 28. I got this for $800 back in the day. Can you believe it?
No,
it was a lot of money at the time. At the time, that was a good price. But now this would be a heritage thing, and there would be people fighting over this one. But yeah, this is a pivotal moment in the entire Micronauts saga. Zakroyer versus Baron Karza.
Now, just out of curiosity, do you have a lot of people make inquiries with you, or do they? I mean, because I would have to think people know these are really, kind of permanent collection type pieces. But even if not inquiries, I bet you get a lot of people just emailing you, congratulating you on pieces like this.
Well, for the most part, they leave comments, which I appreciate more than emailing. But I do not get very many offers or inquiries. Again, it's another one of those things where other people in the hobby talk about how they have to deal with people that don't take no for an answer and just don't get it and stuff like that. And that I just haven't had to deal with it. Maybe they take one look at my collection and they kind of go, "This guy isn't selling." So,
well, just by the way you have the collection organized, that's probably a sure bet that you're not selling. Because whenever I look at it, I think it's like file cabinets, flat files, all labeled and laid out really precisely from the Micronauts to ROM, and even to your commissions at the tail end of everything. It's like you knew what you were doing in the way that everything's organized.
I put far too much thought into how I arrange things on your site. That's true. But
nothing wrong with that.
I think people appreciate it. It helps them to navigate, and so they know what they're looking for when they click on a link. So,
well, it's appreciated.
Oh boy. This is Butch Geist, and again, Danny Bolinati, the cliffhanger splash page for Micronauts number 49. There's lots of stories that can go into this one. How long have we got? We still got over an hour, or a half hour at least.
Sure.
It's possible I might get a little verklempt over this one. We'll see. I remember when... I don't know how much to include into Micronauts. Was part of the great experiment from Marvel, where they did the first fledgling steps in going with direct market distribution, where they would sell comic books directly to comic book stores, and it wouldn't go to your spinner racks in your Walmarts or your drugstores anymore. Well, since this was my favorite comic book, this was a little bit of a blow because I lived out in the boonies, and the closest comic book store was an hour and a half away. And so I scrambled to get a what am I trying to and the age I'm having a brain fart.
You got to get a lift to get an hour. I mean,
I'm gonna be sounding stupid. Where they send where they send the book to you every month. What am I trying to say?
I'm not
subscription.
Sure.
Of course, a subscription is what
subscription.
Yes, I'm an English major, people. That's what comes when your vocabulary is too large. I had to get a subscription, and it took them 3 months or so for the subscription to go through. And so I sat around wondering what the heck had happened during this time. And when it started back up again, I opened. At the time, the mail from my household would go to my dad's office at the family business. And so I dashed in after school to see whether or not my book had arrived, and it finally had. And I opened it up to this splash page. And Dad, bless his heart, who is gone 8 years now. He had to see his silly nerd son jumping around reading a comic book at the foot of his desk, and it's one of those things where a parent looks at his son and just says, "I just don't get you, man." But I have a very, very strong memory of seeing this page for the first time. And it's stuck with me for, it's again, one of those issues where you remember where you are when you saw it the first time. Fast forward to, I don't know. I don't have the date off the top of my head. It must be about 7 years ago. And I you and I have emailed about this, so some of this is going to sound familiar. I did a search on your previous version of your of Comic Art Fans' market research.
Yeah,
and you had some really fine stuff, and I was able to find out that this particular page that I had such memories for had sold on eBay with a buy it now of like $350. And at the time, I had been at a concert seeing the Police when they were doing their reunion tour in Minneapolis. So while I was out there, this had appeared and vanished in under an hour on eBay. and it just, when I discovered it only by going through Comic Art Fans
Market data. Yeah.
And it drove me crazy. A whole weekend I sulked because I had missed out on it. And it, after a while, and it did change my behavior as far as how much I pay attention to eBay and stuff like that, for fear of missing something. I'll bet you a lot of collectors out there might identify with what I was talking about. And finally, one day, I just got a bee in my bonnet because, again, at that time, your database did have some more detail as far as the details of the search or of the individual auction. And I sat down with your database, and I made a few assumptions and did a few searches, and I managed to tease out that the guy who had sold this page had sold 3 or 4 other pages at the same time. And I was able to locate those other pages, and through figuring out those other pages, I was actually able, and comparing it to eBay, I was able to actually locate the seller. And I was like, okay. And then I went back through the seller's feedback at the time. And again, eBay has changed since then. It's much more anonymous on eBay, but I was able to go back through the seller's
With their feedback
yep, and found that the seller had left feedback for the buyer of this page. And so after a weekend's worth of work, I had located the guy who owned this. And I posted that information on the bulletin boards. And this, here's where I get a little self-criticism and stuff. Some people congratulated me, and I have to honestly admit, I feel very pleased that and very clever that I was able to find this. But there was a fairly vocal minority of people that felt that I had crossed lines of how should we put it? I don't know. I had tracked down a piece that where the owner wasn't necessarily advertising that he had it, and that perhaps I had transgressed in some way. And I don't know that I agree, because I did use freely available databases to find it, but I'm never one to not take criticism seriously. So since then, I have changed the way that I approach the hobby, and well, for lack of a better words, I've relaxed a little bit since then. So maybe this was just one big bee in my bonnet that I just needed to get out of my system. But considering how much I love this page, I just am absolutely ecstatic that I was able to convince the previous owner to trade with me. He's complete and utter gentleman. So,
well, I actually remember that. Now that you're talking about it, I remember that whole conversation that came out of that. And I don't know. I mean, I think, like you said, it's freely available information. You just did a little bit of research, and I think that the more I learn about collecting and talking with collectors, I mean, I think everybody kind of uses their own research out there and to track down art. And I know that with privacy laws and everything today, that people sometimes think that find that to be problematic. But at the end of the day, there was no harm done. You had to do a lot of legwork, to find it. And at the end of if the seller ended up getting a good deal and they got something that they wanted out of it, then your research paid off. And it's not unlike what anybody else does. I mean, I remember back in the day doing the exact same thing, going through eBay and trying to find information more about sellers rather than buyers. But at least back then you could, which like you said, you can't do that today.
No. Then I would like to point out the previous owner could always have said no, but inside baseball, I did offer him 12 pages for this one, so it's not like he did not get compensated for it. So
right. Mayor Joseph is commending you as well, and Sam Hughes says, "Job well done." So it's true, and I would completely agree with you that when I go through, because I actually, surprisingly, Tuesday is my day to import eBay market data and update everything, and I'm always surprised at the number of buy it now items that that are only live or on the site for 20-30 minutes, and sell. That are, because I always kind of, whenever I do the import, I then filter it by highest sale, because I'm expecting it to always be auctions. But I'd say 50% of the time, at least 5 of the top 10 are always buy it nows that were on the site, certainly less than 24 hours.
Yep.
And it's amazing. And because I don't pay attention to eBay that closely anymore either, but they do still manage to pull some pretty decent pieces out there. And sometimes they sell for really high, and sometimes they sell for really low, but they don't last long.
You've had people on this very show who make a living, so to speak, of having their own secret ways of getting alerted for when these things become available, and it's stunning. Because I certainly don't. I can't grok that yet, but they figured out their ways. I'm glad I'm friendly with most of them.
Yeah, I mean, I do know. I mean, I don't. I know because since I've worked with eBay for a dozen years, and so I know the people who do development that aren't in eBay but develop products for that kind of thing, and I know that they're a huge group, and there's many. I think there's many products that do this for you, that literally are scanning items as they're added, and they'll ping you, and so that's amazing. I mean, I've never looked at one, never had one. I just know they exist. That it's just like setting your favorite keywords on CAF, but it's looking for things added, say, in the last 5 minutes, and you can target the categories and all that kind of thing. And if you really want to know, I mean, I'm sure you have to wade through a pile of things that you don't care about, you would never even be interested in, but there's that one nugget that's going to come out of that you're going to be really happy with.
Oh, you're going to give me a chance to pimp something I'm looking for again.
Yes.
This is another Baron Karza splash from the Image Comics version of Micronauts. This is again from Micronauts number 11, page 2 splash. The artists for this were Steve Kurth out of Wisconsin and Barb Schultz out of Minneapolis. So they're both very local to me. And having them so local, I've been able to find all of the artwork for this particular issue, which is the final issue of this particular run from Image Comics, except for one page. One. I have all the rest of them. I even found the artwork for the back cover, which Anthony Snyder managed to find for me, and I know where the cover artwork for this is. So if need be, I could put the art for this entire issue together, except for the one page, which has eluded me so far. And from discussions with the artist, it sounds like it was either sold or given away to a charity auction or something like that very, very early in the process. So this would have been 2010, 2011. So the page I'm looking for I'm hoping it still exists, because that's a long time for something to not show up. But I think it's still very likely that somebody bought it for cheap back in the day for $50 or whatever, and it's just stuck in somebody's pile, and the guy does not know that I'm looking for it. Either that, or he knows that I'm looking for it, and he's going,
That's true.
Which is not impossible, I suppose. And I've talked to the Image comic guys that produce this, the editor and stuff like that, and they're kind of like, there's a possibility the page you're looking for was lost or destroyed too. It's kind of like, well, boy, I hope that didn't happen. But yes, I have a standing offer for 2020, which people can find on my Comic Art Fans gallery. If they can produce that page that I have, for a page that probably went for $50 10 years ago, I'm offering $1,000 for the page, $500 for as a finder's fee if somebody is directing me to the owner of the page, plus $1,000 to their local food shelf which seems very 2020 thing to be. And so, bottom line, I'm offering a $2,500 package for a $50 page just to get the book finished. And still, it's been crickets. Nobody knows where it is.
Right. Well, if it was sold at like a charity auction or something like that, I mean, I haven't been to many in the last few years, but early on, I remember going to a lot of those, and I felt like I was the only art collector in a lot of those types of auctions. I mean, certainly not New York City Comic-Con, type of thing, but a lot of say a Pittsburgh show I used to go to all the time, Columbus. And I'd always feel like half the people in the room, at the very least, weren't really avid collectors, and yet they were, buying artwork. So you could be very well, correct in that it could just be in some Joe's, maybe it was his one and only con he ever went to, and he picked up the piece, and he's probably hasn't looked at it in 10 years.
Yep. I think that's probably the most likely, that it's just in somebody's pile, and they don't know that I'm looking for it. Hopefully somebody will lay eyes on it one of these days.
All right. Well, now I'm gonna bring up the IDW book.
Okay.
So obviously, this was kind of what made me think, all right, I got to talk to Andrew about what kind of went into being a part of this project with Scott and working with IDW, the inspiration behind doing it. And yeah, I just want to, I know we haven't talked about this at all, so I'd want to hear the whole story.
2016, through again, blind luck and some assistance from people who have become very, very good friends since then, I was able to locate a collector who had bought, who had purchased direct from Golden and Golden's representation back in would have been mid 80s or so, a pile of his artwork from Micronauts, to the point where he had about half of the artwork from the run.
Wow.
And between his stuff and my collection, there is about 2/3 of the run of Golden's Micronauts. So if you read anything somewhere where Golden is talking at a convention about how he, stuff got wet and he threw it away and stuff like that, well, maybe for Bucky O'Hare or some of the other things that he did, but a lot of Micronauts has survived. So, which I am very, very grateful for, and most of it is because of the kind attention of my fellow collector, who shall, at the moment, shall remain nameless. But I contacted it would have been just last year, early last year. I had committed to go to San Diego Comic-Con to go to the Walt Simonson signing for his Star Wars Artist Edition book. Mm-hmm. And because that was, again, you remember earlier me talking about how Star Wars was a big deal for me, and that really hit the nostalgic sweet spot. So I contacted Scott through email, just saying, I would, you guys, IDW's got the license for Micronauts right now. If that can somehow segue into an artist edition of Micronauts, we could be, between these two collections, I can lay hands on 66% of the run, and we can fill it out with original sketches, and other collectors who have already come forward on Comic Art Fans and stuff like that. We can get a majority of the stuff, including complete issues, if that's of interest. And Scott responded back basically saying, "We've asked before and they have always said no." And then I met Scott a few months later at BacaraCon. I shouldn't say BacaraCon. That's what I call it. That's the Los Angeles show, of course.
Yes.
Although if that name gets picked up, I won't mind. I think it's hilarious, but Bacara probably wouldn't think so. But never mind. But I met Scott at BacaraCon, and and he told me, and this would have been May 2019, and he said, I know that you're coming to San Diego Comic-Con in July to come to the dinner. If you really want to, I'm interested in scanning this stuff, even though we have a pretty firm no, but you might as well stash it away. If you can swing it, come earlier than your normal arrival date. We'll give it a day or something like that. We'll get it scanned and see what happens. So I made arrangement. My travel agent had me fly first class for the first time because it was easier to keep an eye on all the artwork all at once, and rolled into IDW and got to meet Scott for the second time, and met Chris. I think that's probably the second time I met him too. Chris Ryle, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And bless Scott Dunbar. The amount the amount of work that he does for the hobby is underappreciated, because he had me roll in with a day before the show was to start with this pile of artwork, when it's, if you stop to think about it, San Diego Comic-Con is IDW's home show. So they have a lot on their plate when San Diego Comic-Con is going on. And yet Scott found time to get all this stuff scanned somehow, and sent me on home with my Simonson signed book. I was very happy. And a couple weeks later, I just got an email from Scott saying, I don't want you to get too excited, but we have a provisional yes. It's going up the food chain of approvals, but they something changed and they said yes. So once we got a firm yes from the higher ups at Marvel/Disney, then we had to get it approved through Golden, and once that was approved, then the wheels really started to grind. We announced and got a bunch of other artwork, which came out of the woodwork, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much the story as it goes there. When we announced the book, Scott has a great time teasing on Facebook, and the reaction has been vociferous, shall we say. So there were a lot of people who were not expecting this book to occur, and now that it is, they are very, very happy. So, and for my part, I don't, how do you put it? Michael Golden and Bill Mantlo, they contributed to my adolescence, and being able to have this book occur when it otherwise wouldn't, because of basically me insisting and Scott insisting and Chris insisting, it really makes me feel like I've given a little bit back to. This is a product that Michael would not be able to sell at his table if not for me and IDW's efforts. And I'm not too proud to say that I don't feel rather pleased with myself over that.
As well you should.
And a portion of the sales goes to Bill Mantlo's care and upkeep as well. So I feel like I've given back to both Bill and Michael in a way which is rare, I guess. So yes, I'm pleased with myself. That comes as a shock to a lot of my friends and family, I'm sure.
No. I mean, I think it's great that you did it. I completely agree with what you said about Scott as well. I think, he's going to go down as one of someone who is so important to the hobby by putting these artist editions together. Absolutely. And right, because everybody looks at CAF as a great thing because so many people put art there, but CAF doesn't even have 10% of the artwork that's out there. So when Scott's putting together a book like this, he really is able to because he's been in the hobby for so long, being a dealer originally, and then his work at Wildstorm and whatnot. He knows a lot of people and a lot of art collectors, so he's able to shake the tree. So when he puts together one of these books, he's really pulling in artwork that, by and large, a lot of it hasn't been seen before, seen in a long time, and may not be seen for another 20 or 30 years. So when him putting these books together is just, it's a rare opportunity for people who appreciate the medium and who collect original art to get to experience it in a way. And like he said, and I wasn't even aware of this, that they've already, they're at over book 100 now since he started doing these. And I liked his story of, if anybody hasn't watched that, they should watch the interview we did with him a couple weeks ago. But he wrote for CFA APA, which is it's really a fan publication written by original art collectors who've been, who are well spoken and can write a good story. But it's funny, what they do is, there's 60 members in the group. So anybody they have to write their book, write their story about a particular topic that they're given for that issue. They publish this thing 3 times a year. And what you do is, if you need to you make 60 copies of it and you send it in to one person who has to collate these books. And then they send them out to each of the members. I mean, it's literally a book that no one gets to see unless you're contributing to it. And it's been going on, I mean, I don't even know how many years it's been going on. It's a long time. I wrote for it over 10 years ago. But Scott had mentioned that he was really interested in, I can't even remember what the topic was, but he was reproducing original art because he wanted people to see it in the CFA APA, and he found it really difficult. He had to go into spend double what it would cost at the copier to do color copies of the pieces he was doing because it looked so much better. And that was his inspiration to doing artist editions. And I mean, I just love that, because he was doing something that was, really special for a select group of people. And that was the inspiration for doing these books in the format that they're in. And, I look forward to the next, 20 years of him doing these books, because there's a lot of history that left to capture.
And to think, how does one put it? What he does is underappreciated. I think a lot of people don't appreciate what he does and the amount of work that goes into. But if I'm jealous of him of anything, is to sit back and think, look at the legacy for himself that he is building book after book, for not just comic books or comic art, but comics in general, and really just I guess a legacy for himself. Is he's carving it out in one book at a time, in a way that is unique to the whole hobby. But what a real love letter to comic fans is, if you ask me, is his efforts.
Oh, without question. I mean, initially, when they were talking about doing these, I was like, it's just, we're scanning, art and getting it, and putting it in a book. I mean, how hard is that? But no, I've published a book once a year for the last 8 years, and I know how much work goes into it. And it's not just, and certainly not in comic art. I do it. It's in science fiction, fantasy art, but I know, how difficult it is, and as crazy as it thinks, the editing time that goes into every book. And again, back to that, just the fact that he has to, track down so much of this work on his own, in some cases, and he's able to bring it out. I mean, these are fantastic things for the hobby, and I can't encourage people enough to pick them up. There's guaranteed to be at least 1 or 2 books out there that you would be interested in owning. Yeah. I mean, the Jim Lee X-Men book, I'm a big fan of X-Men. I wasn't buying during Jim's period, though. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I just can't wait to see what he's managed to pull out, and, for that particular edition.
There are 6 complete issues that are going to be included in this book, including number 11, which we've talked about, as well as number 12 and number 7, which is the Man-Thing issue, which everybody talks about, and number 8, which is the first appearance of Captain Universe.
Oh wow!
Awful name there.
Oh man, yes, these are you're plucking all of the proper 80s strings there on this one. And hey, let me pull this piece up too, so we can switch it to something else. So this is something that you recently shared on CAF as well.
That's the original piece that the special edition cover was used for. It was originally printed in an old pinup magazine that's Durenko published called Media Scene, and I think it was in the final issue.
Issue 40.
Yeah.
Well,
and Golden painted this one himself. There are a few of his examples of his early color work, and he has as well as being obviously an amazing talent with black and white, but he's a stunning color artist as well. So,
see, I didn't realize that. I was going to ask you specifically, who did the coloring on that piece, because it wasn't written on there. But
that is all Golden.
Wow. And is that something that you recently acquired?
I've had that for a couple of years now. It used to be in the collection of noted New York collector Rich Cirillo. I think that's a name you've heard of before. Yeah.
Rich and I we have this ongoing appreciation for many things in the 80s, like the Elementals. Bill Willingham is both of us really appreciate his work a lot. During the same time period, he was rather unique in his art style too. So I didn't know that, though. I didn't know Rich had this piece.
Rich and I have known each other for years and years. He used to be kind of the noted Micronauts collector, and he's had to let a lot of his Micronauts stuff go. But he's one of those. How should I put it? I'll just be blunt, I guess. If somebody that I would call a mentor in the hobby, for me it would be Rich.
Mm-hmm.
He is a level-headed guy, not much upsets him, and just he's kind of an even keel kind of guy. He had to put up with me early in my collecting career, and when I was not as when I wasn't as mature a collector as I am now, I guess. And he taught me a lot. He taught me about a little bit of decency in collecting, and I owe a lot to him.
Yeah, no, Rich is a great guy. Yeah, he's usually watching. Maybe he's taking the night off. I'm sure he'll watch the rerun. But Rich is somebody that I interviewed. Remember when I was talking about the 6 interviews I did last summer and just got burned out from editing them? Rich was one of the people I interviewed. Because I've known him for I think for as long as I've run CAF. He's just been out there, and because we have similar interests in artwork and in book titles, and he's always been somebody that I've emailed with frequently. Mm-hmm. And he'd be somebody I'd love to have back on the show sometime, because he's a lot of fun, and like you said, he's very experienced, very even keeled, and I know that he's tight with Neil Adams and does a lot of work for them, and he's definitely got a lot of good stories to tell.
It's always looking forward to seeing Rich. Sometimes I don't go to a show if he doesn't go. So always fun to hook up with him and his wife Mara. So,
what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Minnesota.
Okay, that's right. You did say that earlier, Minnesota.
Yep. Ooh, that's a great segue to another thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
Why the heck isn't there a Midwestern comic art show? Please.
Maybe we should talk about that. Right? I'm in Northeast Ohio. Mike Berkey's.
Other people I've heard are in Northeast Ohio too, man.
I know. We've had
right off the tip of the tongue. Let me think.
Honestly, it probably would make a lot of sense to do something. Not quite sure, precisely where, but I know that I always tell people they're more than welcome to stop by Berkey's house anytime. But although
I have a killer name for the show, which I will tell you off the air because I don't want anybody else to steal it. But
no, don't. Let's save it for ourselves. But it's true. I agree. I think that people have pitched ideas to me for a long time to do a show. I can't tell you. I'll be honest. Anthony Snyder told me a long time ago. He's like, "We got to do a show together. It'd be fun. You got to do it in New York." And I was like, I just like doing websites, And then they did Comic Art Con. Joe did, and it was such a great success. I never would have thought that a show like that would go over well. But I think that the hobby has changed so much in the last 15 years, really, that I think that, I wouldn't, shows like that could stand on their own. And there are a lot of creators in this area too.
You would probably need to do it in Chicago if you ask me, but maybe not. I'm open to negotiation on that. But there's piles of not only creators but collectors in the Chicago, in the Midwest area, all around the Great Lakes. Tons and tons of collectors, and if you could pull those guys in who wouldn't otherwise maybe travel to the coasts, and maybe some of your big name collectors from the coasts would actually deign to come to the Midwest. I think it should be viable.
Yeah. It could be like Fight Club. We could just have a branch in every major city and see what happens. But no, I do agree. It would be a lot of fun. And because that's the one thing that all these doing these live streams has really shown me. I've always prided myself that I usually like to do everything via email, and I have never been one to even use a phone or whatnot. And since COVID started, just doing these sorts of chats and everything has just reminded me what it's like to really get out and talk about the hobby with people. And I think that doing shows in person would be a lot of fun when we can do shows again, safely, of course.
Touch wood.
Yes, exactly. But after pulling off the images now and looking at the artwork on the walls, that was one thing when you sent me the picture that I used as the thumbnail for tonight's episode. You had all the pictures in the background, and I was like, see, there's somebody. Mark says, bring it to Chicago. Yeah. See, everyone's leaning to. Chicago's only, I don't know, I think it's probably like 5.5 hour drive for me, so that's not too far.
It's about 6.5 for me. So long as you don't get pulled over in Wisconsin.
Well, then Chicago's, we're leaning towards Chicago right now. But what I was getting at was I really felt like the way you were framing a lot of your work was really unique. And so I had you send me a few photos of your framed work and the choices that you made in doing them. I thought that was something worthwhile talking about because I thought it was really unique. Because typically when you see collectors framing stuff, they're not going to frame the printed piece with it, but in many cases you were putting the original art with the piece it was from, but also a cover or even something else special. So what kind of, when you're putting these together, are you working with a framer to come up with the concepts, or are you going in saying that? Yeah.
But for the most part, I knew that I wanted for me, it's framing a piece of comic book artwork, which very often is going to involve sequential storytelling. I think it does it a little bit of a disservice to just frame it as is when you could possibly add a little context. So that's why in this instance, this is a John Byrne piece. I bought from him directly, if I recall correctly. It's luckily to get a Doctor Doom piece. That's, you sense a theme, but I think it adds so much depth to be able to show the difference between the what they start with the black and white and how it ends up with the colored piece. And you'll see on some of the other slides how some of them I added even more context than that. But in this one, to get a blurb of the cover. The cover of this didn't have anything to do with Doctor Doom, which is why I had the framer mask it off just to show the cover dress.
Sure.
I also want to say that pretty much all the pieces that you're going to see here, they are framed on my wall, but I got a bee in my bonnet years ago that if anything ever happened to my house and I needed to get stuff out of my house, I didn't want to be caught pulling stuff off the wall. So I actually took them apart after I had them framed and had very good copies made and inserted the copies into the framed stuff. So if I ever need to leave the house in a hurry, I can safely leave this stuff on the wall.
See, now you're the second person that we've interviewed that has done that exact same thing. And I can't believe I've never heard of people doing it before, but it makes so much sense. You can just grab your portfolio, or you've already got, all the artwork in a fireproof safe, so you're not worried about it. But this way you still get to appreciate the pieces in your collection without having to run the risk of losing them in a fire.
Yeah. Properly marked on the back, of course, that they are reproductions. So blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
This is another one. This is a great example of one that's showing a little bit of context, because here you've got the cover on the left and the finished page on the right, but right above it you have the half splash page from the previous page to give you some context of what is going on in the scene. So again, with a storytelling medium, I thought that it helps a lot to be able to appreciate the piece when you have some context.
Oh, I agree. And I assume that I didn't read the story before, but I saw this piece and I thought I was going to ask you what's in that top right column.
It is a little bit more expensive to frame them this way, just because it's bigger, takes up more wall space and stuff like that. So if this to me is just a carefully selected piece that I don't know, just begged to be on the wall. But yeah, this mode is not for everybody, especially for people who don't have a whole lot of wall space.
Well, you must have it. Hey, here's a couple comments. Chris from Wisconsin apparently says Wisconsin checking in here, and he says Chicago would work well as for him. And James Phelps says, "Hey, it's Andrew Allen."
Hey, Phelps.
And here's another piece.
Dave Gibbons' Doctor Who page. Again, this is pretty standard. Where this is an oversized page because they were being printed for the weekly comic book in Britain at the time. So they had a slightly different page size, which you probably see if you're looking for early Judge Dredd pages and stuff like that. And again, just showing the cover, the American cover, and how it appeared in the American book, colored.
Yes, I've owned a few. Doctor Who is another. We have a lot of crossover here.
I do a lot of sci-fi comic book stuff, clearly, because there's a real sci-fi streak in Micronauts and Rom Space Knight, and Doctor Who and Star Trek and Star Wars and Battlestar. They're all sci-fi properties that I like.
No, I don't blame you. I've had 4 or 5 of these pages from these Doctor Who's, and I've always loved the fact that they were so they were oversized as well. But every one of them I ended up trading, up usually for something else. So I don't own a single one anymore. But yeah, that's a beautiful page. And last but not least, this is
Sergio Aragonés, Gru the Wanderer. I picked this one. To me, the piece is less important than the framing job. This is a friend of mine from college, went to art school as a collage artist. And so with this and a few other pieces, 5 different pieces I have scattered around my home, we took convention sketches and decided to make the framing job just as entertaining as the sketch itself. So we sat down with a few issues of the related to the individual sketch, and we just took a scissors to the whole thing and found our favorite bits and rearranged them. She took the time to nowadays, of course, you could do this in Photoshop, which would probably be a much more efficient way of doing it. But we actually clipped up comic books and applied put them on sheets of two-sided tape, basically, to make them into giant stickers. And then she cut out. She was also a framer at the time, and so she cut out the board for this and rearranged and made and then signed them after, because she's again the collage artist. This one was actually the most tough of all of them, because Sergio's. You want the as your eye moves around, you actually kind of want each individual little frame to be its own little joke. But that is not necessarily the way Sergio tells his stories or tells his jokes. Very often his jokes are punchlines that are a couple of pages in the making. So it took a little while to actually find images and pages that actually kind of stood on their own as far as a good little joke. And there are bits from this particular piece that are from like all 3 or 4 different publishers that he's had for Grooves. So,
well, that's fantastic. Did you get this sketch from Sergio, or is it something?
Yeah, I bought it from him. It was one of several sketches that he had at my local show.
Okay, now that is great. Hey, we did get a question from your buddy James. He said, "Did we talk about your sketch card collection?"
Oh, well, I actually have it here, or at least one of the binders here. We did talk, to answer his question, we did talk a little bit about the collection. I started out again with Marvel Creators Collection. I don't know how much of this you're gonna be able to see, but with a focus on Doctor Doom. After a while, I actually started to get sketches done at conventions where on erased versions of the card, so that I got people to participate who weren't actually from the original past. There you have a Sergio. There's Phil Foglio and Fred Hembeck.
Oh yeah.
And one of the Mad Magazine artists there. Oh, here's a good one. I actually had Don Rosa do Doctor Doom.
Here, I'll pull it up full screen for you. Oh wow, that's great.
And he that is like the last time he would do something like that. He doesn't really do sketches like that for people anymore. I actually, let me see if I can find it here. There's Dave Gibbons in the center there, doing a quick Doctor Doom for me.
So when you were getting these, was this prior to you buying the published artwork?
Yes, this was again predating my comic art fan, or the original artwork thing. There's a John Byrne that I begged him to do a piece a little bit like this, and these days now he just does that when people get a sketch, he just does that profile of Batman, and that's all he'll ever do. So, but I even have. Oh, there we go. How about a Bernie Wrightson Doctor Doom right there?
Dang. You made the rounds. Now, you were doing these.
Years I was doing the rounds. It was a lot of fun. There's a Terry Austin in the center.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we don't get anything from, not a lot from Terry lately, unfortunately. James is hyping you a lot. He says he has the single best Lord of the Rings sketch from 2004. And you pulled it. Yep,
pulled it out of a pack. There you have a Jim Lee Doctor Doom sketch for you.
Wow. Now, I mean, a lot of guys, gosh, I can't say that I've waited in a lot of lines, recently, but it always seems best that, if you brought your Doctor Doom sketch card collection with you to show people that to get a good Doctor Doom sketch card. I mean, is that what you would normally do, or would you?
Absolutely correct. I would bring the sketch card collection with me, and as soon as they grokked what was going on, they were kind of like, put your money away. I want to participate. Whereas some of them probably would not have really been interested very often. But once they got a chance to page through, they took it as a little bit of an artistic challenge.
Right. Oh no, I agree. I mean, there was always the Cliff guy who always had people draw characters on cliffs, and it was, I think it was, people would normally just be like, what kind of sketch theme is that? But you see who he had gotten, and then the next thing you know, you can get a guy on a cliff from just about anybody.
There's me. Probably the one and only time Joe Sinat ever drew a Micronaut. There he did Baron Karza for me.
Very nice. I was gonna say it looks like Sinat, but I'm like, what? There's no way.
No, I did that through the mail, and I sent him character reference so that he knew what he was drawing, and he never drawn him before, but he's willing to give it a go. So that was very nice of him.
Oh, without question. And see, and Rich Danny says it's the competitive spirit that takes over,
Yep.
with the creators. And it's true. It's true. So, it's not a bad, approach to doing something, because especially when they know it, in most cases, as a collector, you're not going to be selling those pieces. I mean, you don't, you've got a thing for Dr. Doom. It's not like you're going to, unload these anytime soon. So I think the artists, they know that this is something you're going to keep, you're going to cherish, and that's going to be the thing that they show to the next guy.
Yep.
So Jim Lee knocked that one out. So you just need to have that one always like on the first page, and people would be like, shit, I got to do a good job on this thing if I'm going to compete with that. Right?
Yeah. All right.
That's the way I would do it. So I don't know if James has anything else that he can give away about you that we haven't talked yet.
James knows all my secrets. So,
well, listen, it's we're almost at the hour and a half mark, but it's this has been great, Andrew. I really, this it was everything that I hoped for.
well,
I just wish that that I actually had a copy of the book in hand myself. I'm going to have to, but I guess we'll have maybe. I've been thinking about like doing, trying to get every book as they come out and doing a little like my own little review of them. But I was hoping we would have been able to have them for the show. But I can't wait to get one. I hope that the book sells well for IDW, because obviously you both put a lot of work in getting it.
I hope it does too. Looking forward to it, but it's hard to get too upset about it when it's completely out of your hands. So
right. So you didn't get to see a proof copy, or at least not in your hand, proof copy.
I got to see a digital proof copy.
Yeah.
A while ago. So.
No. Well, that's good. Sorry, I'm just James says the missing page of Micronauts. Yeah, it's still missing, James. We haven't found it yet, but you never know. The funny thing is with these videos, I've had people email me afterwards, mentioning things like I might know somebody related to a something piece. So this might be a good advertisement. So is there any other pieces other than the annual 2 for ROM pages that you're looking for, and that the one image Micronauts book? Is anything you want to like throw out there?
Well, I have never been shy about posting on Comic Art Fans the things that I'm looking for. Although I don't think, I hope that I don't abuse that, because that isn't really what your site should really be for. It shouldn't be kind of like, I'm looking for this, but. We've covered the two of the 3 books that I'm trying to complete. The third one is, well, I shouldn't say a book that I'm trying to complete. The third thing that I'm really trying to locate is page number 1 from Micronauts number 9, which I don't have the actual page, but remember earlier when I told you about the previous collector who had got me the original pencils for the color effects pages?
Mm-hmm.
He sent those along to me. He also sent along a few other pages from other Micronauts things that are just the color effects. So there's just like a little bit of Kirby crackle, and that's all the thing that's on the page. But there it is. That's it. So if you scroll down a little bit to one of the first of the additional images there, you'll see that I own the overlay, the 3 overlay, the color effects, but I don't own the original page, or the master page, shall we say. And so I would really like, incomplete things really bug me. So I would really like to be able to find that page. That is a digital mock-up of what it should look like.
Mm-hmm.
So
the bottom panel is a great team shot, that's for sure.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Wow. No, well, I could see why you'd want that one. That would be a piece to cherish for sure. See, and if you get it, can I get the finder's fee for helping you like get it out there into the ether?
What? Absolutely.
Sure. Man, maybe I could
10%.
I'll take 5%. I'm not greedy.
Oh, you're so easy.
But this could be a whole new business for me. If I could help people locate their the gems they're looking for their collection, maybe I could I could stop doing. I could maybe what I could hire another editor so I wouldn't have to write so much on CAF anymore.
Okay.
There. All right. See, there you go. All right.
I have a little. Are we signing off, or do I have time for a couple more things to show you?
No, sure, please. If you got something else, what do you got?
You've put me in a good mood, so I'll show you a few things that I haven't put up on the site yet.
Well, that's why I was asking you about the alternative cover for the book, because I was like, there's no way you just bought this thing. How long have you had it? And I love the fact that collectors hold back stuff from posting it to CAF, because I don't know. I don't think everything should be seen. So I loved it when I saw you post that piece.
I will guarantee you right now that James Phelps is going, no, don't do it, don't show. But I will show you a couple things. This is one of my favorite Al Milgrom covers from ROM Space Knight, and I think it's one of his more clever covers.
Wow.
He's doing a little bit of a play on Silver Surfer there, of course.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And let's see. Here's one of the very few Butch Guice inking Butch Guice. This is our back cover for a Micronauts issue, and this is where they went to the prison planet like they did in Star Trek, where everybody was walking around thinking they were in a dime store novel kind of thing. So there's that one, and this is one that some people would probably drown kittens for.
Yeah. Wow.
I like using that phrase, drowning kittens.
Yeah. You're desperate for something when you would drown kittens.
Here is another ROM Space Knight cover. A real beauty.
Oh, wow. Dang. I haven't, that's an image I haven't seen in a long time.
Well, here's one that you've probably run across recently. But if you're going to, yes. Gil Kane only did 6 covers for Micronauts for his year on the book. I think this is the one to have. This is the one everybody points to. Without question. Wow. Man, you are a lucky man, Andrew. Lucky I'm able to afford it. Here's a Michael Golden cover that I haven't let people know. Oh, okay. Yeah, honestly, that cover right there is probably my favorite ROM cover of all time. Honest to God, you're killing me. I told you I like making you twitch. Man, that I'm jealous of that one right there. Let's finish on one last story. Hopefully, this won't take too long to elucidate. It would have been 1998. Marvel Comics tried to bring the Micronauts back and publish them again. And they got 3 issues into putting the book together before somebody actually took the time to actually contact legal and confirm that they actually had the rights to the license. And the license had expired, so they had to cancel it. And they had Kerry Nord doing in one of his first gigs doing the first 3 issues with inks being done by Dan Green. And through again timing, I actually managed to contact Kerry years later about the artwork right on the eve of it actually showing up from Marvel on his doorstep, because they had kept it for a long time until Image got the license, and then they realized they didn't have the license anymore, so they got rid of the artwork. They sent it back to Kerry. And I traveled to Canada and negotiated with him personally and bought it all lock, stock, and barrel. Well, it's half done. Half of it is inked, half of it isn't. I talked before about having about Rich being a mentor of mine, and my other mentor and my local mentor is Dominic Postiglione, who has since passed on tragically a couple years ago. He took a look at that artwork and he challenged me that someday you should finish the book, finish these 3 issues. And it wasn't until after he had died so suddenly that I felt inclined to actually follow through on his challenge. And now, of course, the unfinished pages can be scanned and sent in Photoshop and sent along as blue lines, so you can still preserve that artifact of the incomplete book right in the middle of their process, which they don't do anymore. Mm-hmm. And I sent blue line scans off to Dan Green to finish the book, and he finished it after a fashion. There's another story there which I'm not going to get into. Let's just say it isn't for family viewing. But and I also had local inker Tom Wynn do versions. So here is this is an example of one page from that incomplete, unfinished project. Here's the Micronauts doing their Micronauty thing, and there's the Baron doing his villain sort of thing. And so here is Dan Green's inks that he finished last year. I also had Tom do a version which is similar, and I actually got a bee in my bonnet once again, and I inked a version of it, which turned out pretty well too. So
showing off your art school's tools.
Oh yeah, my art school tools that I still try and stretch as often as I can. A long-standing project which I'm going to be releasing to Facebook when the artist edition comes back is that I scanned all of Micronauts 11 in Facebook or into Photoshop, and I cleaned it up digitally, and I have over the course of about the past 6 years I have recolored the whole thing in Photoshop as if it were a web comic now. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't look like it's original, although I've learned a lot while doing it, and I've taken a lot of criticism and good criticism from industry professionals that are really looking forward to seeing it released finally. In my experience, digital recolorings aren't really well received, so I'm certain that I'm not going to be able to please everybody. Right. But all 16 pages and the cover are done. It is ready to go. So when the book hits, then I'll be releasing these recolored versions of my absolute personal favorite comic book. So be gentle when you see them. But I'll send a pic to you, Bill.
Yeah, please do.
So you can take a look at it, because again, it's one of those things, one of those projects I'm a little bit pleased with myself because I think it's a cosmic battle and it looks like a cosmic battle. So,
did you actually get like a Cintiq tablet and do it and draw it that way, or how did you?
No.
Oh my gosh, you did it all with it. Wow. Well, that is very admirable.
It's how I taught myself. So you might as well stick with the tools.
No, I hear you. I'm in Photoshop all day, but I could not do digital colors without using a tablet. I mean, and I'm terrible at a tablet. I want my kids. That's second nature to them, but I could never do it with a mouse. There's just no way. I cannot draw lines with the mouse. But you know what? Dominic would be very proud of you, I would say. For going through the effort that you put into getting the rest of that book inked. I mean, that's definitely you did a good thing.
He taught me a lot of things. He ran his own comic book store here in Minneapolis, and that time when I told you where I cleaned out the inkers for Rom Space Knight, the Aiken and Garvey. Mm-hmm. They were selling them on their webpage for $50 a page, and so of course I bought them all. But at the time, that was about $4,000 investment when I had to put it all on my credit card. And I went to Nick and I said, I don't know if I can swing this. I don't know if it's a good idea. And he's like, I get where you're coming from. I give you until tomorrow to pull the trigger and buy it. Otherwise, I'm gonna.
Nothing like a friend to push you along.
Yep, and he meant it too, or he would have done it. So that taught me a real valuable lesson about being bold when you have to be, and make a decisive choice because these opportunities in this hobby do not come up often, and when they do, you must strike, or else somebody else will. It was one of the most valuable lessons for a hobby that I've ever been given.
Yeah, no, that was I completely agree. And hey, Rich just popped in and says hi to us both. Hey, Rich.
Hey, Rich. We talked about you earlier, so watch the whole show now.
That's right. Yeah, somebody was asking earlier when they missed the show. These are saved on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So once the show's over, you can go back to either one and rewatch it there if you missed anything at the beginning.
So I don't see on my screen how many people have been watching. Usually when it's usually like 17. Have we been doing better than that, or is that about?
On my counter, it peaked at like 44, 45 because it's showing. So, but yeah, if you did any PR for yourself out there, it definitely brought in some people. And the great thing is, I'll be honest.
I just promoting myself.
Well, tomorrow though, it's like if you check this time tomorrow, like the views on YouTube and Facebook, and just add them, I guarantee you they'll probably be like 800-900 because it's for whatever reason a lot of people watch it after the fact. They watch it the next day, especially if they're in Europe. They're not up to right now watching the show, and a lot of times people on the West Coast, they're eating dinner, so they're not starting. They're not coming in until halfway through or near the end. So, James says that you bribed him to watch. So there you go. James is giving away all of Andrew's secrets tonight.
I am not giving you that card for free. I am just not. I just want to express my gratitude for the opportunity. This has been a lot more fun, and I was a lot less nervous than I thought I was going to be. But and for those people who are watching, thank you for watching. And please, if you go to my my gallery on Bill's site and take a wander through the things that I'm looking for. And please, if you can help me out, I really appreciate it. I have a pretty good network of people that support me, which I don't know that I deserve, but they inexplicably all like me and have been with me through thick and thin, and I really appreciate them all. So.
Yeah, that's it's good friends in the hobby are how you really you got to have connections and good pals that help you out, and without question, nobody can go at it alone. And I've at least I've never heard of anybody who can. And I always think that the people who end up being, rewarded the best as far as their pursuits of things, they have a good network of friends looking out for them. And you're looking out for people too, I'm sure, at the same time.
This is one of the things that I'm really kind of hard on myself about, is because my collecting focus is so focused that I can get by with not being that much of a student of the rest of the hobby, really, or of comics history, which puts me at a real disadvantage socially, talking at Comic Art Con, where all this other artwork that everybody else is so excited about, and I just kind of walk right by it because it isn't in my tiny little slides. But which is not fair when I want to be as much as an important part of other people's network as they are to me. So it's an ongoing struggle to be able to remember what everybody else is looking for.
Right.
But it's hard for me, but I'm working on it all the time.
Well, I'm just glad you don't like elementals, because then I really would never get to see another page in my collection. So.
You can have all your elementals.
And Michael Avila asked earlier if you showed off the Dazzler 3 splash, and we did show that earlier, Michael. It was but he didn't show it on screen. But you have it.
What, this one?
Oh, there we go. There it is again.
Like I say, I just like to see Bill twitch.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Man, well, yeah.
Any other questions that people have asked, or are we good?
I think that I got them all. As far as everybody, is happy that you spent some time chatting with us tonight. That's for sure. And Rich did lament publicly now that any golden Micronauts that he used to own, him. So he's substantiated your tale.
Well, they they're in a Lovin collection, and now the vast majority of those are going to be re-released back out to the masses in this book. Which again, go buy several copies. I know they're $150 each, but
yeah, no, I pre-ordered. I pre-ordered one. So, and it's actually, you know, and I hate to say it, it's the first artist edition that I actually ordered. I mean, I've now put 2 other ones. I know, I'm dumb. I mean, well, I look at it. I'm like you. I mean, I live in front of a computer, but it's like I work all day. I don't even get to appreciate the hobby because I work so dang hard. And I definitely need to find ways to kind of, you know, scale back, take some time. I can't read a book. I mean, I read everything online anymore. And so it's like the thing that I've tried to promise myself in the next year, that I'm just going to take the time to appreciate the things that, you know, are around me that aren't related to work, because I work too hard. And I think that I've if anything, that COVID and the time, you know, I spent with family a lot in the last 6 months, is just that, you know, everything's flying by, right? And I need to take that time, and that's my focus going forward, is just to appreciate the hobby and the friends that I have in it, and not be such a workaholic. So
we spoke before about how I feel about Scott Dunbier being a patron saint of the hobby. Well, you know, you got to include yourself in that. There, you know, where would we be without the site and the work that goes into it? I mean, I've run websites back in my time too, and people do not understand the pain in the behind running a website. Really is the things that you have to put up with have got to be unimaginable. And I just want to let you know I appreciate you for that.
Thanks. No, it's you know, I enjoy it. It's I look at stuff like this. I appreciate the challenges that this has, because you figure I host CAF, but then I host 30 art dealer sites too that, you know, that I've built, and I don't know, it's a burden. You know, at the end of the day, I look at it, it's like, man, you know, every time I reboot the servers every 5 or 6 weeks, you know, my heart stops until they come back online. It's just pressure that I one day I look forward to not having. I look forward to the day when someone else has to press the button, you know, to reboot the servers. And I could just, you know, sit back, and I'm not responsible for everything, because I do everything. I do all the accounting. I answer all the support emails. I mean, there's not, you know, this, for a site this size, it's just a lot of work. And I've been, you know, how many people do you know that's done the same job for 18 years? Not many, not many, but I've been fortunate enough to do it. So, and I'm not complaining either, because I've loved every minute of it. I love it more now than I did when I started. So,
can I ask one quick favor before we go?
Sure.
Can you pull up the page for that one page that was missing for the image thing, so people can see what it looks like?
Oh, right. Let me.
On my gallery, it's easy to find.
Well, I gotta find it. Oh, is it on the featured?
Yes.
All right, let's see. Oh, it's from the 11. Right.
Yep.
There it is. I just have to share my screen again.
I should have asked you to do this earlier.
There we go.
That's it. Of course, it's a Baron Karza page. Of course, if I can't find it.
So that's the one that's worth $2,500 to you right now.
To me, yes, and only for this year. I can't guarantee that I'd be able to stick with it, because who knows what's going to happen as time goes on. But I can still swing that offer for the rest of 2020. What's left of it.
All right. Well, if that piece shows up, I get the finder's fee. That's all I have to say. Unless somebody else brings it to you, then I'm okay. I don't care. I've never gotten a finder's fee in my life. But I can tell you, you know, and it's funny. I can't tell you how much art I've helped sell, you know, just from, you know, I know stuff too. I mean, you know, because being on CAF, I know who collects what and everything. And even just like today, somebody emails me out of the blue, and it's something related to a print that I knew existed, and it wasn't on CAF, but I emailed I forward them the location of where they can get it. And so they're totally happy. It's like, that's the cool part of the hobby is, you know, I've helped connect buyers and sellers always, you know, many times a week, and it's fun. And you know, it's really fortunate to be in a position like this, because if I ever put a sign on there that says, you know, come here to sell your art and I'll help you find buyers, then I could do finder's fees, because I'm sure that CAF would be a magnet for people, you know, that way, because I get inquiries all the time asking about art value and that sort of thing. I mean, I get one of those every single day. Somebody emailed me this morning saying, I own 2 Flintstones comic covers from the early 1970s. What are they worth and where can I sell them? And I usually just tell them to look on eBay or Heritage, and then I usually refer them to a couple dealers that might match what period they're looking for. But it's definitely fun.
Do you think it's a little obnoxious of me to have just looking for wanted pieces all on my featured front page?
If I told you to follow the T's and C's, I'd say you're supposed to use the want list feature in CAF and not post pieces you don't own in your gallery, because that'll be the thing that always everybody says. Bill's rule is you're only supposed to show stuff you own in your gallery, not stuff you want to own or used to own, even though I know nobody, so many people break those rules. And the thing is, I always turn the other cheek for people who support CAF. At the end of the day, if you were coming in here and all your gallery was stuff you wanted to own or stuff you liked and none of it you owned, I'd be like, I got to close you down or, something. But I know what your collection's about, and I don't give you. I've never said any of that to you, because there's other people that do the same thing. There's lots of people who post it and don't use the want list section at all, and I can understand why. It's not as obvious a thing for people to look for, when people might have art to sell. It's something that has been on the site. It was actually one of the features I built in the CAF originally. It's like one of the few things that was there on day one, and it should be more easier to find. I mean, we built that whole want list keyword feature, which I think is pretty cool. The thing that premium member. I hope you use that.
Oh yes.
Okay, because that's like the best thing I've made ever. I thought was with premium. Well, because non-premium members get it too, but premium members get it within 5 minutes. So any new artwork that's added to a classified gallery or from a dealer that comes into our inventory gets emailed to the premium members within 5 minutes. Because basically I just run a 5-minute cycle and check everybody's keywords. And if anything's in it, I push it out.
I can't for anybody else, but I noticed that I started getting those emails very promptly, and that's appreciated too.
Good. Because non-premium members get them too. They get fewer keywords, and I don't even know what the delay is on it, but there is a delay. I give premium members 8 or 10 hours or something like that as a jump. So because I like the fact that, because at the end of the day, then the people who if that piece sold and the dealer already pulled it and it's out of my inventory, they don't even know it ever was available. But right. It's back to a lot of that, like that eBay tactic of being able to be alerted on rare keywords within 5 minutes of it getting added to their database. So CAF is all about challenges. The data is all there for me. It's more about like, how can I leverage the data to make the hobby better for everybody, especially those people who support us. So that's usually how I approach things. Is this something that'll benefit everybody, and is it something that I should benefit people who are taking care of me? And I just kind of run the angles that way, and then that's how we figure out what the next thing is that we're going to work on.
All right. Let's keep the conversation going about a Chicago or a Midwest show. I'd really like to see what people have to say about that.
I agree. I think that I'm going to talk with Berkey about it too, because he's kind of mentioned it in passing about having something around. I don't know if whether he really meant Chicago or not, but if we got enough people in the area that would want to do it, I know we could pull it off, because I don't go to, even Berkey doesn't go to Comic Art Con. I mean, he's gone a few times, but it's still, that's an 8 or 9 hour drive from here. So if you can get something that's 6 hours away from a lot of people, I think that it can be a draw. It's a day show, right? I mean, you just time it right. I think Comic Art Con has the right idea doing it on a Sunday, and they have it from like noon to, or maybe it's 10 to 5, something like that. They make it a reasonable time to get there. The biggest challenge, of course, is going to be getting enough dealers to set up, because that's why it works so well in LA and New Jersey, just because there are a hub of art dealers in both of those locations. But we could probably make it work.
If you can't get dealers to come, then maybe you contact enough artists that have stacks of comic art or something like that, and fill out your roster that way. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I will keep you updated. I'll float it and see what people think, because I think it's a great idea. I mean, I would enjoy it, and again, I don't foresee the big shows coming back like we're used to seeing them for at least another until after next summer. So we're really looking at 2022 before San Diego or New York is going to look normal again, and I think small shows are where it's at.
Presumably the vaccine even works. So
right. I mean, I just can't see it, and because if this lags into the spring, which it's going to, there's no way that San Diego is either not going to happen at all, or maybe they have 20%. And if 20% of the people are going to show up, how many exhibitors are going to want to show up? It's just not. It's not conducive. And what exhibitors are going to want to show up, right? I mean, they're going to want to make the trip. So
and how many people, what percentage of people who would normally go to Comic-Con probably have pre-existing conditions that would make them vulnerable? It was just not a good idea.
Right. Well, I mean, I think you and I are probably in that sweet spot for people who we're 50 and over. I don't know. I'm 50 and over. Okay. Well, there you go. See, we're in that sweet spot where we should be going to shows like that, because we're ripe for getting it and getting it bad. So, yeah, I mean, who wants to risk stuff like that? I still got kids. I got kids at home still. I don't want to. I've already got to run the risk of having them going out and then coming back, and then me going out and bringing it home. Yeah, no. So, and hey, well, we can close it on Rich Cirillo's question. Let's see, where was it? Is that a foot on Andrew's couch?
Yes. This is a pillow that my departed mother made for me for Christmas. That just one of the things that she made for me as a kid, and I've kept good care of it all these years. So yes, it is a foot.
There you go, Rich. It's no longer a mystery.
Yeah, really relevant question to the hobby, but what? Hey.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I think it's time to call it a night for me. It's almost 11. Okay. So, I appreciate you taking the time tonight, Andrew. This was a lot of fun. I was expecting it to be fun. I didn't expect it to be this much fun, though, and to come out of it with so many possibilities for future things that we can do together. So
that's very nice of you to say, and I'm available to do this again anytime you want. So.
Just again, don't pick up on elementals, and you're my friend. I'll have you on as often as you've got something new to promote, or if you come up with another book for Scott, I'm all into promoting that too. So
I think that would be a hard sell.
Yeah. Well,
I think I don't know that Geis and Broderick are big enough draws to be able to as much as I would personally like to see him, and Micronauts fans would probably love to see him, but I just don't know that it's not as universal as a Michael Golden. So I think that as far as Micronauts is concerned, I think this is about it. I'm almost certain that there's no chance of a ROM Space Knight one. Just no chance.
That cover could get it. If you ever did a book of 80s covers, that ROM cover with the rest in peace tombstone and him getting dragged down, that could make it. I could see that.
I'll have to get it in front of Scott sometime and see if he's interested in scanning it.
All right. Well, again, thanks for everybody tuning in. Let's see. On Thursday, I'll be having a chat. Well, I'll do my regular CAF update, and I've got Steve Barak is actually going to be joining me afterwards, and we're going to talk a little bit about his collection and his time at Heritage when he was pulling in consignments. And he brought in the Seamus collection that had the infamous McFarlane Spidey cover with Spidey punching the Hulk that went for $380,000 or something like that. So he's been around the hobby for quite some time, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun things to talk about as well. And if you didn't know it already, Comic Art Live, the next show is November 14th and 15th. So that's it's coming up faster than I like. That should be a little. I don't know if you went to the show the last time, Andrew, but we limited people to set. They could only sell 18 pieces of art for that weekend, which actually worked well, I felt. But I
bought a Micronauts page at the last one, so yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, well, see, I'm very happy. That was like, after all the other things, everything I've done in the hobby, that was like one of the most well-received things I've done, was putting that show together and having it actually work. So, we've decided we were going to do them every 6 months now. And this next show, what I'm going to have everybody do is they're going to be allowed to post 24 pieces on Saturday and 24 pieces on Sunday. So it'll be like an art drop, 2 separate days. It'll be timed. So, say at 10 a.m. When the show, or I think it's going to be 11 a.m. on Saturday for premium members to come in. So there'll be the art drop on Saturday, 2 hours, and the premium members have the 2-hour early access to look at the artwork. And then on Sunday, when the next 24 drop, if that's what they can stagger it, they can put 12 and 12. I don't really care. They can do 2 art drops. But when the second art drop happens on Sunday, that's going to be open up to everybody at the same time. But I wanted to find a way to keep people, engaged both days, rather than just focusing all their attention on everything on the first day. And I've kept my instructions out to the sellers were, try to put your best stuff out on Saturday, because that's when it's limited to the people who support CAF, and and try to figure out how you're going to put things out there. But they can't take things out. They're still limited to 48 pieces unless they're a rep. But still, I mean, if you think about it, when there was almost 3,000 pieces of art at that first show, that's a lot of art to go through, in a sitting. And I can't imagine. I mean, I'm kind of nervous putting 48. If everybody put 48 pieces out, and say we had another 50 people exhibiting, you're gonna spend 8 hours pretty much, having to kind of go through everything if you really want to. And then, so we'll see. This is an experiment. I was trying to appease the sellers by letting them have more. I kind of like that less is more concept, where I told people, you only bring art that's new or you're pricing to sell, because that focuses, you're going to make very special decisions on what you're going to show to sell. And that's better for the buyers too, because then they're not wasting their time.
That was going to be a question that I had. Were you focusing on the new to market stuff and stuff? And that would really excite a lot of collectors if there was really stuff that the hobby hadn't seen before, and make it exclusive to the show.
That was the intent. And I know that not everybody's going to ever be able to do that, but right. That was that was the mantra going in. It's the message I'm giving to the dealers, that if you got an art drop and you can hold it back or hold back some pieces, let's, please do that. It's going to make the show better for everybody. I know everybody can sell their stuff anywhere. They can sell it on CAF any day of the week they want. And the dealers can do it on their site any day of the week. But doing it together in a show platform like that just makes it more fun for everybody. And there were a few dealers in the first show that did that specifically went out and said, hey, I'm dropping this Raphael Grandpa art, and and to their list, and it drew a ton of people that came in. It probably drew some of those. We sold premium memberships at $35 for 3 months, and I had over like 125 people paid for that limited access, just because they wanted the 2-hour early access. And probably a lot of those people wanted it to buy that Grandpa cover, but only one person could get it, and it was sold in a minute. And I didn't even know what was going on. And that was a great thing. I was trying to tell people, help me come up with creative ways to help me draw traffic to the thing. And so a lot of the dealers, several dealers did good things like that. That I didn't even know was going on until after the show was over. So I kind of went into this show where I'm already prepping everybody to saying, hey, these are things we'd like to do. And certainly if we don't get to do it this time, I'm saying, hey, we're going to do it again in May. And I just want to kind of keep that momentum going and just do unique things and just engage it with everybody a bit more. And I think it's going to make for a much better show in November. And then May, the plan for May is to actually move it outside of CAF and put it in its own site. One of the complaints I got, and it would still use CAF logins, like you'd still, it's going to be able to know you're a premium member and all that. Management of your exhibitor space could still happen in CAF, but the problem we ran into with the show while it was on CAF was like people who were new to CAF, people were coming there for the first time, and it wasn't a lot, but that was the common complaint, was CAF was confusing. There's just, you've got ads on the left and all these things that are related to people's galleries on the right, and they had a hard time figuring out how to get into the show, even though I'd replaced the header and the eBay ads were gone and they were replaced with ads for art to the show. So anybody who knew CAF knew what changed and could get in and find things really easy. But the people who were who had never been there before found it confusing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, yeah, I get it. And it would probably give me a lot more freedom to integrate if we do more panels, or if I wanted to, maybe a dealer's doing, who knows, maybe, I don't, they're doing their own special thing and you could run announcements on something. Well, I can't do that today on CAF. Where in the hell would I put an announcement about a dealer has just set a 2-hour 10% off everything in their booth sale? Nowhere. Well, if I had my own, a different structure, I could work that kind of stuff into it. And I think that would help people sell better, and it would probably help people find things a lot faster. And it would be, the barrier for entry for new people would be removed.
Heaven forbid you should put in something really complex like an auction function or something like that.
I know it was, people did ask about it, and I thought, well, it's a possibility. I'd be more inclined. The biggest complaint from the first show was that sellers weren't responding fast enough to inquiries, that people would say they sent out 5 inquiries and they didn't hear back from anybody, in that first 2-hour window. So now they've tied up the money they were going to spend on these 5 inquiries that they don't know if any of them are going to happen. Right. And of course, if they're, because collectors have, half the booths were from collectors, you figure all those collectors are shopping too. So that's why they're not replying. And so it made for a very, it made for a tough situation for some people who wanted to spend a lot of money. And, and a couple of the guys were like, and then I found out I didn't get any of the pieces. And then when I went back to other guys who had stuff I wanted, the stuff that I wanted was gone too. So, it's a valid complaint. And so I think if we did anything, auctions could be something to do, but I think finding a way to allow people to come up with a buy it now, if I could facilitate a transaction where you could put it in your cart and the next guy that came into it saw that it was already in someone's cart, but do it like the ticket sale sites do, where it's but in 6 minutes it might be released if this guy doesn't complete his purchase. Oh. And you know what I mean? So that maybe they can star it and like it, so they can come back to it and build it, so they can build a list of things that they want to see and go back to that list and see if anything's sold and what's still available a half hour later. I think that would be a wise thing to do. It's not going to happen for the November show, right, but I think with the May show, and I might do it as a trial, because I don't know if I'd want to roll that out site-wide to every single exhibitor. I'd probably want to just pick a few people that I trust, that I know are going to deliver product. So, because if I'm going to help facilitate a sale on the site, I don't want to do it and then have something go wrong. So I might only do it with some of the dealers as a test, and if it works well, expand it the next time, right? Because I could see doing that, and then even having a separate section that literally says you can buy this stuff right now. You don't have to worry about, you're not sending an inquiry. And so that'd be an advantage for a seller to wanting to work with me in that way, because then I think buyers are going to want stuff like that, where they can just go in and buy it and move on to the next piece. And so we'll see. I don't know, but I'm glad you got a piece at the last show. So with that, I appreciate it, and I will be in touch if anything comes of a Midwest show. We're gonna be in the green room in a few minutes. You got to tell me the name idea. So don't go anywhere. So all right, everybody, we're calling it a night. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Maybe I'll see. Yep. Thanks again, Andrew.